Right? So and for this we try to, the Nehru said very important thing that, when we are going to manage our PMO, are we going to apply the 49 process chart, or really we should have a, at least a framework specifically for PMO, so that we can actually manage better. That's why the PMO Global Institute, they have these framework. We call it the CB-PMO framework. You can see it here, and it has actually a couple of sections. We divided these framework actually into 4 sections. If you look at on the top part, we have these, the business starts with the business objectives, which we call actually the foundation layer. So it has 4 parts. In the whole framework has 4 parts. Again, it may come to the questions again. Yeah, I'm revealing all the secret questions for you. Yeah, all right. So it has 4 parts: the foundation part, then we have these execution part, then we have these supportive functions, and we have, very importantly, the PMO leadership function. This section is very, very important, because many of the cases, we have seen that top management thinks that as soon as we have a PMO, the project performance will go up significantly. But many of the cases, the top managements are not aware about their responsibilities and their sponsorship, and how they can help the PMOs and the PMO teams and the stakeholders to get these objectives achieved, right? The purpose achieved. So that's why there is a huge section for PMO leadership, where it talks about this, executive leadership, how the executive leadership should, heavily sponsor the PMO team. Also, it talks about this emotional intelligence. Why is emotional intelligence important? Because you're dealing with all different project managers and the stakeholders, and you have to handle them nicely. So that's why probably the emotional intelligence will help you achieve this. So let's start just a bit brief about this framework. That we start asking questions to the sponsors. So we go to the sponsor and we ask them at least 15, 20, 50 questions. We ask them, like, tell me, what is your problem? What is your current challenges in the organizations, right? So many of the cases they said, no, everything is going smooth. But in that case, probably we'll have to be like a doctor to ask them, right? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? What is your last year's optimizations rate card? What is the productivity rate cards? And how many projects were successful? How do you define your project successes? And a lot of other things. So yeah, many of the cases they don't know, but many of the cases they were well aware about the challenges that they have, that we need to capture. What are the challenges? Our management. This is we're talking about the management they have, and find out what purpose they want to achieve, which we are calling the business objective. Okay, so once your business objective, and there will be a template in the guidebook, we'll get this template, but how should you write down your the objectives of the PMO, and write down your challenges and come up with the objectives. Then the second phase is a strategy part. So in the strategy part, very importantly, we recommend a couple of actions. Number one is there is something called health check. All right, health check. So health check means before you get into the operations, you just do some initial testing with a set of questionnaire that what is the current situation of the organizations, and if they really have a PMO, what is the current state of the PMO, right? So it will have like 20-25 questions. There is a checklist how you can quickly check the health check, and and this health checkup gives you some scoring also, from where you can find out what are the burned area, which are the most critical part of your PMO that requires immediate attention, right? So once you identify these, then you go for another detailed level of assessment, which we call actually the maturity assessment. Okay, the maturity assessment. Then once, and this is a very detailed exercise in the maturity assessment, and we divide the maturity assessment into 5 levels. The 5th level, the highest tier, is optimized level. Optimized level means your PMO is kind of like in a matured state, right? So where you can do this continuous improvement, right? So it's a scoring based assessment system. You can literally do this assessment and tell your stakeholders where does your PMO stand. Then also you check your the functions based on your objectives that you should to adapt, again depending on the the size of the PMO. you need to define what are the different functions you need to adapt in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Then you come up with this PMO roadmap. PMO roadmap is very critical piece of the whole entire framework, because in PMO framework you define, let's say, next 3 to 5 years plan. So many of us think that we'll get the PMO up and running within very short time. Probably we'll talk about this step-by-step process, but the roadmap we normally plan at least for next 3 years, where you divide the objectives for next 6 months, then and 1 year, then 2 years, then 3 years, and every stage in the roadmap you define what are the functions and what are the outputs you are going to generate from each phase, right? And then you come up with your PMO charter. And you all know PMO Charter, once everything is defined, what you want to achieve in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of your roadmap, then basically, you have your PMO Charter. Again, it's like a project charter, where basically you get get this, endorsement and approval from your sponsor, PMO sponsor, that this is my commitment and this is the way I want to move forward, right? So this is the sign off between multiple stakeholders within your PMO environment. So this particular part, up to this PMO charter, we call it actually the foundation layer. Okay. Then once you have this foundation layer, set up, and then we move to this execution layers. Execution layers, we call it 2PG. What is 2PG? So 2PG means policy, procedures, and governance. Okay, so this is important that you based on your roadmap. I think mostly this phase comes in the initial phase. Initial phase, we recommend that you support your the existing project managers and the projects, and also in parallelly, within 3 to 6 months of your PMO setup, you go and set up your 2PG again. How many SOPs will be there? How many policies should be there? How many templates should be there? That all depends on the size of the PMO you're expecting, right? But again, I would rather say, minimum you need at least a certain number of policies and the SOPs to kick off your PMO in this stage, right? So initially, if you talk about these procedures, SOPs, I would at least name 4. Starting from, you need at least your risk management procedures, you need your issue management procedures, you need the change management procedures, you need at least these conflict management procedures. So at least 4, 5, 6 SOPs you need at least in the phase 1, even though your PMO size is small, to start your 2PG phase of the PMO. Then normally we suggest that it's better not to jump into the the full operation before you test your framework. Okay, so that's why we suggest this, do this POC, proof of concept. Means take a small project, 3 to 6 months project, where you try to apply your 2PG, right? Try to apply your 2PG and see if it's working or not. See if it's working or not. What are the feedbacks you are getting? Take those feedbacks, see the challenges, and improve it, right? So then also you do define, then based on this, you come with a real KPIs that you want to really achieve in next 6 months, 1 year, and so forth, right? And also define the, parallelly you define the roles and the competencies you need to run your PMO. Then on quarterly basis or monthly basis, you need to evaluate your ROIs, right? So do you know there's there is a formula where you can check the profitability of your PMO. Nowadays is happening is PMO is not only just the center for managing the projects. Now there are good practices where basically you can literally check how much profit PMO is generating for your organizations. Amazing, isn't it? People will no longer call it as a cost center. So the moment the profit concept comes in PMO, that's we're talking about different levels. That top management will really feel motivated because they see profits out of PMO, right? So yeah, again, the formulas of how to calculate PMO's profit and cost, you can actually get it in this PMO guidebook as well, right? So everything with examples is there actually. Yeah, in parallel, you see, you're in the execution mode, but throughout the life cycle, you have these supporting, functions. These supporting functions includes, your team structure, your succession plan, right? So, then you have these what kind of PMO structures you're going through. Are you going through an Agile PMO? Are you going through just a supportive PMO, or is it going to be a center of excellence, or it is going to be an enterprise PMO, right? Again, you will get a very detailed framework for this, that what kind of PMO probably is right suit for your organization depending on the PMO roadmap that you have and the objectives you have, right? So these are all connected, all are very, very much connected. And the concept of Agile PMO is coming up big time. We have another signature sessions where we talk about this Agile PMO framework, right? Where basically, we all know that, we can run our projects in Agile philosophy, but at the same time, we can actually design our whole PMO from an Agile mindset and keeping the principles on. So this Agile, the framework and the is also there in this PMO guide. You'll find it. All right. So another part is that the other functions are like stakeholder management. Which kind of environment you're managing your PMO? It is under a functional department, or it is kind of like a projectized environment. And what happens to different project leads in different situations. So you will also have an idea on this. And definitely without a technology tool, we call it PMO technology stack, right? So without a defined, and a good PMO tool, it's not project management tool, by the way. Right, so this is very important to understand. This is something you have to decide. You cannot expect to, run your PMO on regular kind of, project management software. You need a software where basically all these different frameworks and the functions and the reports coming out from the system. It's very, very important. Probably, I think once you have this associate membership portal in the platform, PMO Global Institute platform, you will have a link where you'll have access to a PMO software, right? So, so it's free. You can just go and register, and it's free. This PMO software, you can have a look that how a PMO software can cover the entire kind of suites and everything, right? So, and the last part is the PMO leadership. I think one of the most important part, because we see once the top management do not see benefits within short time, they start saying, oh, come on, a lot of money has been spent, but I'm not seeing any benefit. So here's my small tips for all of us. The way we suggest to actually design your PMO, we always say that, come up with a plan so that in next 6 months, you can actually, share some benefits with your top management, right? And immediately what we can do, first 2-3 months, we can actually do this, PMO training for the stakeholders. One of the benefits, everyone is coming on the same page. Number 2 benefits could be that you can extend to your management. You complete your, the 2PG, which means you set up your, policy procedures and the governance of the PMO. And number 3, most importantly, take a small project, 3 months to 4 months or 6 months project, and generate your monthly report from the system within next 3 months. That's why you need to take a small project, so that let's say you have like 30 projects going on in your company, and you just take 1 or 2 projects small and show your management that next spend 3 months and show your management that you see, without manual intervention, I am generating the reports, and the top management can literally see the the what do you call it, what is the status of the projects, how much have been spent, how much resource optimizations have happened, what is the productivity rates and everything. Okay, so that's all. This is the framework. The name of the framework is CB-PMO framework. I think it's very, very easy to adapt. So just give it a try. I think once you log into your associate membership in the portal, you will get this framework free, and you can download it. Any support you need, any practice you need, just let us know. Nehru is there. Nehru is the expert of this framework. So Nehru will be actually able to help you out. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are 4 layers that we have talked about: the foundation layer, the execution layer, the supportive layer, and the leadership and sponsorship layer. Yeah, 4 layers. Yeah, so move on, please. Yeah, I've already covered. Move on, please. Yeah, many questions are coming from these sections actually, right? So the reporting part, you see, the reporting part varies depending on the maturity of your PMO and the size of your PMO, right? So mostly we can categorize the reporting part into four categories on the high levels. So one of them actually the executive reports that only the top management need these reports. Another one is this PMO specific reports, then day-to-day operational reports and PMO resource related reports and all these things, right? So please next slide, please. Yeah. So first track of PMO, you see, it takes a bit of time to understand the whole thing. So my simple suggestion is we can actually add up, these famous Shuhari concept. Okay, the Shuhari concept says it's a Japanese martial art technique where basically when someone wants to adapt a new formula, new methods, new team development, this Shuhari method is very popular. So there are conferences on this interesting method. Many of you actually already know. So I'd rather say it's better to go with the Shuhari principles when you're actually adapting these PMO frameworks. That means, Shu means just follow the rules, right? Follow the rules. It's important that, when you're adapting the framework, you try to follow the rules. Then, Ha means follow rules, then you add some new rules. That means you try some new rules and see how it really works. If it works, then you keep it. If it doesn't work, then you just remove it. And the final piece is actually Re means, after practicing the PMO after a certain time, once you are a very matured PMO, 15, 20 years, then probably you come up with your own framework. And probably you have seen many of the big corporates, big multinationals, they have their own customized framework, right? So then you don't have to stick with this framework because it's a very basic framework to start with your PMO. And once you are in the restage, you can have your own PMO framework again, which is part of the optimizations, right? So remember the purpose, measure, and optimize. That's all from my side, and thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for being with us. The 140 participants, big numbers, and I will pass it now to my colleague Doaa, who can give you some tips on how we can develop our career in PMO. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care of yourself.
Very nice.